Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. Now, I generally try to stay away from the politics, but calling out double standards is something I've tried to make it a point to do on this channel, so here we are again. Now, just recently, allegedly, there was a California dentist who got exposed over some comments that she made. Now, the first time I remember seeing anything about this situation, if I'm not mistaken, the media tried to frame this in a very interesting way. This is why I told everybody, be very careful what you read out there. Headlines can be very deceiving. When you see a headline, don't just take it and run with it. Actually read the article, because that media outlet could be using that entire title to frame the situation in a way that it's not and get people to think a certain way about it without actually even doing research. This woman went to some kind of gathering for Republicans, if you will. Nobody gives a crap. Go where you want to go. But it was the stuff that she said at the gathering that was unacceptable, morbidly unacceptable, I might say. This woman, I guess she was trying to do a stand-up. She needs to retire expeditiously. And called herself trying to make a joke by saying, oh, whenever I invite people into my office, my dentist's office, I have all these pictures of me with President Trump and all this other kind of Republican-based stuff on the wall so people can know where I stand with that. And also I wear my Maga hat. And if they have some kind of reaction, I kind of pull back on the morphine. And she laughed. So she basically said, if anybody comes into my office and they have an issue with me being a Republican, if they have an issue with Trump, if they're a Democrat, I intentionally cause them more pain while they're in the chair getting their teeth done. That is not something that you mess with. Then she tried to backtrack and say, oh, it was just a joke. Had other people coming out talking about, oh, it's so sad. We just can't make a joke. Why can't a Republican just make a joke? It's not about the joke. It's about the nature of what you're implying. You don't joke about stuff like that. I've said this on this channel multiple times. There are certain things you don't joke about. That medical malpractice is one of them. You don't joke about causing somebody more pain because they don't agree with your political affiliation. This is why I told y'all this politics thing is for the trash, because there are people out here worshiping the politics, worshiping their favorite political leader. They have more allegiance to these political parties than they do God. They have more respect for a man that they will probably never meet, and even if they do for only a few minutes, than they have for the people who they come in contact with every day. And it's really sad. And some of these same people, I'm going to keep calling it out every chance I get, call themselves Christians. When it says right in the Bible, they're supposed to be reading that there's no way you can say you love God and then you hate people who you see every day. You haven't even seen God's face. Now, the double standard and the hypocrisy comes in whenever we realize that if a Democrat would have done that, they would have ripped those people to shreds. It wouldn't have been a joke if it was one of them that it was at the expense of. That's how a lot of these people operate. But again, it's all, I believe, to cause confusion. That's why I believe that people need to withdraw from these groups. Stop rooting your identity in them, because when you do that, you have this ungodly attachment to them. Now you feel the need to do the things that they do, to say the things that they say, to act the way that they act. And it's not all people, because there are some people who consider themselves Democrat who don't have those, stereotypical Democratic views, or the views that people love to slap every Democrat with just because they're a Democrat. And the same thing with the Republicans. Once again, I'm saying, though, don't root your identity in these groups. That ungodly idolization of those groups and the leaders, the political leaders of those groups, the identification that you place in them will have you out here acting crazy and doing stupid stuff and saying stupid mess like this lady, like this dentist did in California. And also, on the flip side, rather, it might have you being the target of things that you should not be being targeted over, that you didn't ask for, that you didn't deserve. Once again, it's hard to be against each other. It's hard to be at each other's throats. It's hard to make it a us versus them when we're not separating ourselves into two groups. I understand that there are people who have differing views. Some people will believe this. Some people will believe that. Some people feel this way about something. Some people feel the opposite. But to allow it all to divide us in the way that it has is ungodly. It's unnecessary. And we really need to do something about it. Another thing we really need to address with these political parties, especially that Republican Party, because I've been telling y'all, not that I'm trying to throw stones or point people out, a lot of them like to play these games, but they'll be mad, lacking in empathy towards people that don't look like them, that aren't from their same social class or political affiliation, and they'll act like what they said wasn't morbidly disrespectful and dehumanizing, but then if somebody does something to them or somebody on their side, if you will, which is just so ungodly, this their side, my side thing is just so ridiculous. Or if somebody says or does something that's dehumanizing or despicable to somebody who they like, that's a part of their political affiliation, their political leader, now all of a sudden, oh, you've crossed the line. How dare you? We knew y'all weren't worth nothing. How dare y'all? That's not how this works. I've said a few times on this channel, it's sad that sometimes we got to go back to kindergarten, back to grade school with handling how some of these people, adults mind you, some of which are Christians, mind you, how they mishandle rather, other people. We got to go all the way back to grade school. Remember when our teachers and our parents used to tell us, our grandparents used to tell us, oh, well, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? Is what you're saying kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? Well, you want to treat people the way you want to be treated. You want to be treated nice? How about you treat people nice? The old school people used to say, don't start nothing and it won't be nothing. Some of these people want to act crazy and say crazy mess. And then when they get clapbacks and pushbacks, they want to have the surprise Pikachu face, if you will, and want to act like, well, why are you, you're not fair. That's not fair. They didn't just let these people say or do whatever and not confront them or try to hold them accountable, which is wild to me. You know, another thing that the old school people used to say, who actually did love the Lord, who are actual authentic Christians, WWJD, we used to have bracelets with that on them. What would Jesus do? Would Jesus make a joke about putting people through pain that could actually cause them permanent or long-term damage just because you want to take shots at somebody else over a political affiliation? This lady could have lost her job. They said that there's an entire investigation launched against her to make sure she wasn't actually doing this stuff to her patients. Now, they claim they didn't find anything. And she was bragging about, oh yeah, the board looked through it and they said, well, they couldn't find anything. They just tried to take a joke I made and try to cancel me with it. No, they were holding you accountable for joking about something you should not joke about. Medical malpractice is not something you should joke about. I was trying to be extensive in mercy and grace, and I was like, you know what? Maybe she just wasn't using her brain. Maybe she just wasn't using intelligence and the common sense that God gave her in that moment. Maybe she just, got beside herself. She's got bills to pay, possibly a family to take care of. Maybe she shouldn't lose her job. But then I found out that allegedly this was a pediatric dentist, y'all. So she might have been working on the kids when she was doing this or joking about this is what she do. And I already told y'all, say what you mean and mean what you say to me. Because if you joke about it, I'm not going to take it as a joke. I'm going to believe that's what you actually do. So whenever I found out about that, I was like, oh yeah, no, y'all need to get her out of here. I'm sorry. License revoked because you're not about to be joking about stuff like that. Especially because there may have been children involved, like I said before, and the fact that her first duty to her patients is to provide the best medical service that she can. All of that political affiliation, her feelings, her ego, that should have been left at her house before she walked into that dentist's office. But the fact that there are people who really think like that out here that are our doctors is disturbing. But we've been knew this. Unfortunately. Now, there were some people in the comments that were basically pointing out what I said before, how it was despicable and disgusting and dehumanizing that she would make a joke like that on some us versus them because you don't believe what I believe where it comes to politics. I'm going to make you feel more pain. And these people, said people in question, could have been kids for all we know, allegedly, because she was a pediatric dentist, allegedly. That it was disgusting, and then when people confronted her about it, the rebuttal was, oh, it was just a joke. But y'all don't care because it was at the expense of people who you don't classify or identify yourselves with. See, when you place your identity in God, and also the fact that you're a human being, that he made you, along with the other human beings that God made, it's pretty hard to have a us versus them mentality. This is why I keep saying people need to withdraw their identity and their idolization from these political parties and their respective political leaders. Because once again, if you don't, It could have you out here acting like this, doing and saying stupid stuff that you have no business saying. There were some other people saying, once again, that they felt like she should lose her license for that. Now, of course, there is a due process. There's a process to all this stuff. Even though she joked, I've said before, mean what you say and say what you mean. I take everything seriously. Don't be talking about you joking in front of me, because I'm going to take you seriously and I'm going to believe you forever. But there actually has to be physical proof and evidence that she did what she joked that she likes to do. If I'm not mistaken, there were some people who left some bad reviews before the situation, allegedly, and then there were a whole lot of people, y'all know this is always how it goes, who left bad reviews after it. There have been people making videos stating her entire name and where she practices her dentistry at so that they could avoid the place, which I don't blame them for. I'm not saying dox a lady and be showing up at her house. Now, I do believe that the community coming together and saying, this is where this lady practices at, go at your own expense. Don't go down there, because she might do what she's joking about. Like, these people be joking, but there's no such thing as jokes with some of these people. Some of these people, what they say is a joke, they actually do. They're just telling on themselves because they think it's funny and they're playing in people's faces. One person said, nah, don't be coming up here talking about we canceling you. No, what you said canceled you. You canceled you by telling that goofy behind not a joke. And there were other people that were saying, stop trying to throw stones at other people when you're being confronted by what you've done, by what you chose to say. No, other people don't do stuff like this. And if they do, we're not talking about them. We're talking about you right now. To bring up what somebody else did to justify what you did that you should have never did because you had no excuse nor justification to do it is elementary school maturity. A childlike lack of maturity and accountability. Mind you, this is an entire adult that we're talking about who went to school to practice the art of dentistry, if you will. Anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel about all of this down in the comments below respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all all have a very blessed, beautiful, and safe day.